Hello and welcome back, and that is right, today we're returning to the subject of HexOS. Rolling out about 10 or 11 months ago now at this point, HexOS has seen a new update in the Q3 update there, and you can see here from the dashboard, there's actually been a few little incremental updates over that period. Now, we have already discussed HexOS over the course of the last, again, 10 or 11 months there when it first rolled out, then we covered it after 3 and 6 months respectively, looking into different updates on what's been going on with the platform, and that's kind of what this video is about. I think arguably about 65-70% of today's video is actually going to be stuff that's going on in the background of HexOS rather than in the foreground, surrounding resource services and more. Make of that what you will. Right now, the pricing of HexOS is still, got it up here on a tab, still $199. Again, that's $199 lifetime, and then after that, it's going to be $299 when it rolls into the full retail release. I don't know if there's going to be any kind of Black Friday promo or anything like that, like it was last year, the introductory offer. I think it'd be weird if they did that. It might cheapen the product a little bit, but I'm not sure. Plus, I think it would annoy a lot of the 199 backers. But, you know, never say never. And still, nonetheless, HexOS is still a great deal more chewable and user-friendly and easy than that of TrueNAS Scale here running on in the background that we can access if we want. Straight out the gate, I'm going to say it does feel a lot more responsive. We're still dealing with that web GUI, which I know isn't for everyone. We're still using that online service, even though the NAS is, well, about 4 meters that way. But nonetheless, it still feels very responsive. They've tweaked some of the options as well, stuff we'll go on about later on. The files and folder control pretty much visible there, although as you can say, obviously in the case of the App Center there, refreshing information on the fly is going to need to kind of bounce back and forth to that App Center marketplace, call it what you will. But overall, I like what I'm seeing here in terms of the design, latency improvements there in the background. Someone raised actually an issue in the previous video I just wanted to talk about there. When it comes to the text you can see here on screen, I'm actually running right now a zoom level of 125. The actual 100% zoom is this, and there was a few people kind of, hopefully it's in the comments or in one of the posts of the community sections, just have a more native zoom control or text alignment and size. Now maybe that's there and I've missed it, but still nonetheless it could be something to maybe look into there in the background, Hex. Also, and this will become apparent more in the later stages of the video, if you are running Hex right now and some of the options that you're going to see me discussing today are not available on your dashboard, head into the preferences section and you need to enable experimental features. Keep in mind, of course, and you shouldn't really be using HexOS right now for mission critical data anyway, because it's not fully released. But if you do want to play around with some of these edge new kind of stuff, go into the experimental features and enable them there. Now, moving out of HexOS very, very briefly, it's worth talking about the new docs section on the Hex website there. They've kind of changed a lot of the knowledge and resource center stuff there. There is still arguably a dividing line between community support and kind of premium support between the two of them, leveraging a little bit more towards community. Again, more on that later on. But you can find out more information on release notes. There's a lot of people criticizing this in the comments. There wasn't really a nice release notes kind of section of information that was being relayed outside of digging through individual forum posts there. And again, respect to the creators and their team. They respond. I mean, again, I've gone through comments there. There's very few comments that I could find where they have not personally responded, or at the very least questions were not answered or at least taken under consideration. So again, I'm going to give them credit for that, but still nonetheless, it did seemingly take quite a while for them to integrate this a lot more easy to read and digest format. And I can speak from personal experience when you are trying to talk about the 3 and 6 month updates to a software platform when there isn't a clear roadmap and release notes for people to play with there. Now, probably the big news when it comes to HexOS's latest update is probably going to come down to the apps, and I am going to get onto that later on. But buried here underneath is the one that I actually really want to talk about first, the folder wizard. Now, the reason I want to talk about the folder wizard first is because of the targeted demo of the kind of platform, you know, that HexOS is trying to gear towards, the end user there that wants simplicity. And although folder creation is easy on a lot of turnkey NAS solutions due to their integrated GUIs having file, folder level, breadcrumb, kind of everything from copy, paste management and more, this is something they're slowly working towards in HexOS, whereas when you use TrueNAS Scale, you do have to go in and install that File Explorer application. But at the very least here, when we go into the folders area, something that was missing before is how folders have been created and the level of security. So for example, if I go with a new folder in the new Q3 update, we could call this one test year 2. From there, we can select the location and we will be creating a new storage area later on. From there, you can say who can access it from individual users and more. Then you've got the options for storage limitation, whether you're going to be using it for Apple Time Machine. And finally, encryption. Finally, encryption is available and integrated there into the folder creation. Now, again, outside of DIY NAS, this won't hit you that hard. But a DIY NAS creating an encrypted storage folder without an integrated file folder manager is actually a lot harder than you would think. Now, I like this, although I will say, and let's get this on here, it is not perfect. So for example, let's get that put in there. We create our password there, we've created our folder, we've selected what we're going to do, and we create our folder with encryption on board. Now, number one, I didn't quite like the fact there wasn't an option there for an encrypted key to be downloaded. Again, that's a bit much. I appreciate that, and it is going to be built into TrueNAS, but I'm just saying as I see it, what's available from Turnkey NAS Solutions. But moreover, if we go back to that encryption tab, when you want to learn more about it, so again, everything from the benefits to the potential, issues that you might encounter if you lose the key. And I know that seems pretty obvious to some users, but a lot of people coming new into the world of NAS, it might not be so clear. You have to click learn more. Now again, massive credit to them. They have fleshed out this doc center way more than the 3-month update we did a little while ago. But it's still an online resource. And I do think there's numerous examples in HexOS right now for users that want to roll this out locally, that as the brand has already said several times in recent updates, in their roadmap and what they're trying to do, that when they want to move towards a purely local setup, which they say they're heading towards down the road, they're going to need to have a lot more of these little guides and stuff localized. So whether that is that I hover over that and the message appears on screen, or that I'm going to click that and it goes into a local database pop-up on screen, or something that hovers in the middle, there needs to be more local. I mean, hell, when you look into TrueNAS itself, for example, when you look into layout, it gives us more information about what things are. As you can see, these are locally embedded hints, tips, tools, and more. They're not massive, but it's going to be good to know this kind of relayed information without having to make our way into online resources to see that. And then again, the target user this is for needs that without internet service access. That said, when you have created an encrypted folder area, really pleased that you can lock it or unlock it on the fly very easily. I really like how easy and clear the lock or unlock features are there. Again, browsing it, you are still going to need to have to use SMB, Samba, or one of the other supported protocols, depending on your operating system. And again, later on, hopefully they'll integrate a file folder manager into the GUI of this. But nonetheless, I like that. And also, you may have noticed earlier on that if you do create this folder, you need to enable encryption for backing up to other servers. Now, for the most part, I am absolutely thrilled at how secure that is. I love that they've integrated it there. I love that they're clearly telling us at the beginning that if I am going to use Buddy Backup or back this up onto another server remotely down the road, or it's going to be on the local area network, then it needs encryption for that to be as secure as all hell. However, this isn't something I can apply retroactively. So for example, say I create a new folder here. I'm just going to call this one general, or do you know what? I'm going to spell general correctly. No, I'm not. I'm going to call it journal. Screw it. We're just going to leave it at journal. I'm letting everyone access it. I'm not enabling encryption. I'm just going to create that. Now imagine I've dumped a load of data into this. I'm now not able to retroactively apply encryption to that. And if I can't retroactively apply encryption, that means I can't now use this for backups. So yes, I think it's very good that encryption is enabled on backup operations on this as standard, which is good. But that needs, I think, to be clearer at the beginning. If I'm creating a new folder and I don't know, or I know that this folder is going to be used for backups later on, I think this needs to be at the initial. This needs to be at the start to tell me that this folder is going to need encryption as standard if I'm going to use it as backing up later on. And finally, while I am losing my mind over folders, I will also highlight that one thing that was missing, and I was getting ready to complain about it, but they have indicated is coming down the road, is of course snapshots. The fact that I want to be able to create a snapshot schedule at exactly the same time as I create my new shared folder, that should be integrated into this. Now, that is something that is in TrueNAS scale, of course, but HexOS are saying that this, as they're going through the folder creation steps, and there's obviously enabling something, checking it works, going through QA, later on, integration of snapshots, replication, and of course, eventually that buddy backup system, which is going to integrate encryption, is coming down the road. So I'm not going to criticize it too much, but I am going to say that that is something I expected to see here, at least eventually. Next up, I wanted to return to the resource guides and the HexOS documentation there, to sort of go through some of the stuff that's been added, which for the most part is really, really good. It's still not the depthiest resource knowledge center, I would say, but they are fleshing it out. So, for example, learning more about HexOS itself, whether it is that you're going to be finding out what exactly it can and can't do currently. Again, I understand they probably wanted to nail down the fundamentals before they went down the road of creating a resource center, because frankly, things can change. They could have gone ahead and gone down a very different fork, a very different path of creation based on user feedback. So creating this resource center early doors may have resulted in lots of rewritten work. So I completely understand that, but it is worth highlighting that at the moment it is still a little light on the details, a lot of the support things. For example, you just saw it there on screen about the common issues. I can already think of 2 or 3 other common issues that people have encountered, such as having to rewipe some of the partitions on drives. That's one of the most common ones that I saw during initialization of Hex in the early days, not being featured here. I don't think that's been completely eradicated either, but you know, there are bits and bobs there. There is open to contributions, but it's still pretty light on the details. At least the framework is there, though, that I will give them credence for. Next up, we get onto the meat and potatoes for a lot of users in this HexOS update, and that is to do with apps. Either the apps that are now one-click installs that have been pre-created and pre-tailored for installation with HexOS to be a lot more easier one-click installs, and app curation. That is pre-created custom script to a point folder layout and app installations there to speed up the process of getting more apps and services on here. Now again, this is where we're doing that tightrope thing again between community input and the brand themselves, which again has been a thing for a long time when it comes to TrueNAS. It has to be said. So, you know, there's precedent, but at the same time, we are still talking about a paid platform. So I know there's going to be a bit of back and forth on that one. But when we go into the App Center there and we access the repository, we can see that some new apps have been made available there. We've got Jellyfin, we've got Home Assistant, qBittorrent as well. So let's go for a Jellyfin installation there. Now, and as you can see, I've enabled experimental features. Now, what that has done is allowed us for our custom install. Now, again, keep in mind right now with custom install, that is so the opposite end of the spectrum of what HexOS is about. In terms of, if I go for custom install, this is about, you know, custom script. Now, again, users are invited to contribute customized scripts. They will then obviously be reviewed and tested, and ones that are proven worthy or at least proven useful and more widely available, beneficial will then be made available there. How this will roll out, so for example, this is not what I think anyone who is using this platform, HexOS, for the user-friendly nature, is going to want to engage. So hopefully this layout will change. If I click the button that says custom install, that maybe other options will appear, custom setups. I'm not sure how this is going to be visualized for when users customized installs or curated installs are created and then presented to end users there. But at the very least, you've got those custom installations there. If you choose, you can integrate into them if you like. I'm just going to come out of that. But other than that, one-click installs just like before. Click it, install it, bang, done. Now, with regard to existing installations, I will also highlight as well, for example, Plex here, they have started integrating the updates as well. That was something that was missing from before. It's a very small detail, but it's an incredibly necessary detail there to be able to install updates to existing apps, be it for feature set or security purposes. Now, if we click the upgrade option there, as you can see, we're now upgrading Plex to a newer version. Now, I'm going to highlight it right now. I love this because Frankly, if you are anyone that's been using turnkey NAS solutions, your Synology, your QNAP, your Asus stores, your TerraMaster, your whatever, you'll know that if you install Plex or you install Jellyfin if it's supported, when it comes to updating those, very, very few of the official app centers list the update. You go into Plex, you update, you go into the Plex web GUI on your server via your web browser or whatever, and at the top right, it tells you an update is available. You then have to manually download the update for your Synology or QNAP Plex app. It'll be in QPK or SPK format. You then download it locally. You go into the Synology NAS or your QNAP NAS. You go to custom, upload, install. You then have to upload that file. The NAS then says, are you sure you want to do this? This is a third-party script. You go, yes, just install it and update the bloody app, and then it uploads it onto the system, but it warns you a bunch of times, and then you can use Plex. I've not seen many NAS platforms that integrate the actual updates for third-party apps into their own app center. So I think this needs a lot more credit than it's getting. It's small, and it is still, of course, them linking work by Plex and their software devs and their own platform. So there's a limit to how much credit we can give them. But I do really think this needs a lot more gravitas than it's getting. That said, before we all completely disembark on the HMS positive, it is worth highlighting that if I do want to play around with an application or service, again, you still need to log into the full GUI in order to do that. So whether that would be, I wanted to manage some of the folders that it's got access to, you still can't do that within there. Again, early days, I'm still quite chuffed about having the upgrade and update available built in natively and organically into the App Center there, but it's still ways off perfection. And for those of you that are wondering about general storage, the base level pool there, or the RAID group, or whatever you want to call it, again, not much has changed. The presentation has been tweaked in some places. We can still kind of view our existing pool, which drives are in it, replace drives out if we wish, and create a new storage pool there. Again, they've tweaked the options. They've integrated a direct into TrueNAS link there. Not everyone's going to use it for Hex, of course, but it's nice to have it there. And from there, again, we've got the option for multiple drive RAID configuration. So even if I go for one drive there, I can go ahead if I choose to and create ourselves a cheeky little single and allow that too if we wish. We're creating a new pool there. Not much has changed, but at least it's still very intuitive and kind of still very much within the remit of what this is still trying to do. That said, I've still got the odd little gripe and complaint. Of course I have, it's me. So for example, there's one of those little pop-ups. I was really looking for one of those earlier, wasn't I? But as you can see, it says I can't add drives later because this needs 3 drives there. So even though I've got another drive here at 512 gig and this drive here, and by the way, these are exactly the same drive, same capacity, I think the WD SN500s, I'm not able to expand this easily. Now, if I go ahead and delete that there, if I remove that pool and I try to recreate the whole storage area again, now be aware that while we're doing this again, we've just gone through the same process. I'm repeating every single step that I did earlier, but this time with both of those drives. Keep in mind, I do still have that parity there in the background. It didn't give me the option to just add that drive in and expand it or turn that single or what might have been a RAID 0 into a RAID 1 there. Again, I'm not too sure in the background. I could have gone in, of course, to TrueNAS and then find out exactly which RAID configuration has been created on that pool, but then that would kind of fly in the face of what this is trying to do if I'm a novice user who is desperately trying to avoid the more techie GUI of TrueNAS there. So again, small complaints, I'm well aware of that, but still, not terrible, and these are things that can be changed, I'm sure. Well, that's really it. We talked about this in the previous update video, everything from talking about the cards on the right hand side of the screen that gives a lot more real-time information and activity about what the system is doing. I really like that. Alongside that, they have improved, according to the update notes, they have changed this first time setup process there to be a little bit more intuitive in terms of letting you know what you still need to do. So as you can see there, the first flight improvements there, ultimately telling you what you can still do, and you can still reference and find out more information about that in the Get Started tab, where it will guide you through a lot of those processes that you still need to do or still on the process towards. Lastly, I want to talk about something that I did cover in the previous video, but I didn't really give it a lot of attention, and it's something I do think actually deserves it, much like the updates to individual apps and third-party services being integrated into the App Center, and that is the locations area. They're located in the settings menu. You don't need to do experimental or anything like that. And in the locations tab, this allows you a single pane of glass overview of what has access to what across your system. Now, it lacks the user tally. I will say having it used by apps and services is good to know, but unless, for example, the media tab here, which is currently in use, so we can't change it, if we go to something like performance applications, you can actually set some of the defaults, where you want things to go moving forward, as well as seeing what has access to what. So, for example, when we were talking about the apps and services and when you install an application, for example, if we go for Home Assistant, when you're installing an application or service, not only does it detail what it has access to, and also whether it changes a new folder, but you can change those locations on the fly during that installation, giving you that nice balance between one-click installs and also be able to tailor that installation a little bit there. But luckily, it means that you're not locked in, and you can configure that. And that's always been a very difficult thing to present and provide a suitable user experience in order to adapt that without breaking everything. Now, of course, there is the potential still to break everything by doing this wrong, but having that option built in here into this user-friendly interface is one of those core things that I wanted Hex to do for users who are looking at going full DIY, but wanted to be able to do it in the chewable, friendly way that turnkey NAS solutions do it. And at the very least, this is something that I was looking forward to seeing them adapt from the needlessly obtuse and complex way that it can be presented, by the way, across multiple different tabs of TrueNAS being presented in a single pane of glass there. It's not perfect, but it's on the road towards that. And I want to see more things like this. I want to see more things like third-party apps that go into the curated list supporting their own apps and services. I want to see Snapshot integration in the same way the encryption integration has been done into the folder arrangement there. They're on the road. They really are. And it's been almost a year. So again, I'm happy to see it on the way, but still, it's not quite there yet. So if you're on the fence still about it, yes, it's still a lifetime license. Yes, where is that cost there? It's still $199. You're going to get it forever. But it's still, I would say, not quite there. And they themselves volunteer that information, it has to be said. When you go down to the latest update, they are making it clear that one of the things they're doing is preparing for that larger scale 25 update or 2510 scale update there and what that brings in with other featured improvements. But these are big ones. Like VM integration, I would argue, is so way off the mark of where right now HexOS is. I hope they don't go down that road yet. They've still got fundamentals to nail down, but at the very least they are putting their hands up and saying things to do. And of course, localized UI access is still a deal breaker for many. And frankly, I do think until that is rolled out with local network or local client, one or both, that is still just going to be too high for some users. But what do you guys think? Were you one of the users that hopped on HexOS early doors at the 99 and do you feel like you've had value even 1 year on? Or are you someone that went ahead and purchased it within the last 7, 8, 9 months and are wondering about, I thought things would be faster by now. These things take time, but is it taking too much time for you? Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this. We'll, of course, keep an eye on this as things keep going. But apart from that, have yourselves a fantastic week.